Hello people, how are you? Want to make one more video this week. I came across a video with an interview with Jamie Walden, and I don't know if any of you know him. Seems to be once you start watching him, you get more and more stuff. So he seems to be invited to different people. And I saw I was very interested in Apophis. And I hope you know who Apophis is. It's what is it, a meteor? It's I think a meteor. And it's supposed to be seen next year, maybe even with the naked eye. So 2025. But its approach should be here in 2029. Matter of fact, I think in April or something. Or March. So I was very interested in it because the thing is, we hear all kinds of different information about it. They don't know. They don't know what way that comet is coming. In other words, it changes the what do you call that? Changes the orbit a lot because it has gases coming out of the comet, and those gases can actually push off the comet from its original orbit. So they don't know for sure. One time they're saying, oh yeah, it can get pretty close. Another time they're saying, oh no, we don't have any, don't have to worry about it. But this guy, Jamie Walden, he believed that Walden is his name, not Warden. Jamie Walden believes that, yeah, something seriously going to be happening. Now, first I need to tell you, Jamie Walden has no good understanding about end times prophecy. He's stuck in dispensationalism. I'm assuming that he has rejected, and I have not seen all his videos, just simply because he was talking about, in one interview, he was talking about the Noahide laws. And I know the people that have been starting this whole thing with the Noahide laws, and they reject the rapture. But the interesting thing is they keep everything else. Like, for instance, the Antichrist. The Antichrist sitting in the temple of God. The Antichrist making a peace treaty. All these things that are absolute dispensationalism, they're not throwing it out. They're keeping it. This guy is really regurgitating false theology, end times theology. Makes him very dangerous because politically and historically he's telling you really good things. Not always, but he's telling you good things. Then he adds false interpretation of end times. And that is extremely dangerous. He misleads a lot of people because a lot of people respect him as a good source of information. Anyways, he was talking about the reason why I was looking at him because of this Apophis. I've known about this Apophis for a long time. And again, I know that scientists constantly give you another, calculation of what can happen. He was making a connection to the wrath of God. And people, that's what I think. Now, this comet will not appear or pass our Earth at the closest point until 29. However, doesn't mean that it's not going to affect the Earth sooner than that. We know that the wrath of God is possibly 4 years. And I figured out 4 years because of the 2 witnesses. The 2 witnesses are here 3.5 years from the time the bride is taken out. They have to start spreading the gospel as soon as the bride is gone. Because the bride is gone, that means the church is gone. That's when they step in. As soon as the church is gone, these 2 witnesses have to step in and declare, of course, God's gospel. Now, the gospel is different than the gospel for the bride. No longer will the people that are left behind when the rapture happens, they will not be able to be bride. That is gone. So the gospel will be different. The gospel, the 2 witnesses will say, Jesus will return very soon. They may even say when. And that they're going through judgment right now. That's what they will say. They will say the rapture happened. And they will say God's judgment is here. And that Jesus will return. And people, even with that gospel, people will not wake up. Very few will wake up. Most people will try to kill these 2 witnesses, and if God would not protect them, they could be killed the first couple of months. But God will protect them for 3.5 years. So when we figure the rapture will happen on a Feast of Trumpet, that's in the fall. That's that next feast that needs to be fulfilled. Then the feast after that needs to be fulfilled is Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur again is in the fall. So there has to be complete, really, full years until we get to the next feast that will be fulfilled. And I hope you understand that. Since the 2 witnesses are here 3.5 years, they're being killed during Passover, because you figure out the Feast of Trumpets in the fall, half a year later, is Passover. So Passover is when they're being killed. But then the next feast that will be fulfilled is in the fall. So that would have to go another half a year. That would make it 4 years. So there would be actually a half a year where there is actually nobody witnessing, officially witnessing for God. There's going to be utter darkness. Utter darkness. I mean, talking about spiritual darkness. And I believe during that time is when they have the Armageddon War. So if we think this Apophis is coming, right? We're now having almost 2025. And 2029 in the spring is when that comet will pass the Earth at the closest point. So we need to think, okay, when will God's wrath start? Now we know that the, I don't know, is it the, need to watch, I need to go to Revelation. So I did find it in Revelation 8. The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky on a third of the rivers, and on the springs of water, and the name of the star is Wormwood. And a third of the water turned bitter, and many people died from the water that had become bitter. So here it's saying that this wormwood, a star, of course a comet, is hitting the Earth. Now, again, it could be a close encounter that could be hitting it, that will impact a third of the Earth. You know, whatever is on, you know, even the orbit of that comet could affect the waters, whatever is around that, and could poison those waters. But clearly you can see here this star or this comet, Wormwood, that will destroy 1/3 of the water and kill most likely a lot of people. Many people died from the waters that had become bitter. And of course, that is the third angel. So that's almost like in the middle of the wrath of God. And I hope you understand this whole understanding that after the rapture comes tribulation is false. Of course, it's tribulation. People will go through, not really tribulation, but the wrath of God, which is absolutely different. So here, these things, these trumpets and the bowls, are wrath of God. It tells you one thing after another what will happen during the wrath of God. It's obvious. If you do a study on Revelation, you'll see the people are being taken out. They're in heaven. And that's the bride in heaven. And then the wrath of God is being poured out. I've talked about that. In chapter 6 at the end, 12 through 16 or 17, the wrath of God is being announced. And then God is saying, wait a minute, I have to do something. So he pulls out the bride, and she is in heaven, in front of the throne. Then in verse 8, he starts with the trumpets, all the way to chapter 11. One trumpet after another. And one of these trumpets, the third one, has to do with wormwood. Now, when I listened to this interview today, he is saying, oh, you know what? There's going to be a lot of things happening because of wormwood. Of course, as wormwood comes closer, it affects our earth in various ways. It may bring debris with it. What do you call it? Space debris or whatever. Comets, or not comets, but maybe meteors with it. And so we will have it says right here, the first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. And a third of the earth was burned up, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. And people, what do you think happens to the people? The animals. They're all going to die. So this is the first trumpet. Then the next trumpet, it says that there is a mountain burning, huge mountain, ablaze, burning, was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea turned into blood. I believe a mountain burning is most likely a volcano that's erupting and falling into the ocean and will poison it. Why do we have more volcanoes at that point? Because, of course, a meteor is interfering with the earth and will maybe worsen the explosions, the outbreaks of volcanoes. So all these things are part of this wormwood, part of this Apophis. Okay, Apophis. And the fourth angel, or the fourth angel sounded this trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck. Now again, was the sun struck, or was it just covered up by the debris of this comet? A third of the moon and a third of the stars. Again, is the debris covering the sun, okay? Or taking the view of the sun, the moon, and the stars. And it says, and a third of the day was without light, and also a third of the night. So you can continue reading these trumpets, and you can compare them then with the bowls, because the bowls and the trumpets are the same event, just looking at it from a different angle. Compare the two and see how they really are describing the same event, which is the wrath of God. Very, very, very likely that this Apophis is going to be wormwood. I kept thinking, oh my goodness, that's still a long time. I've known about this Apophis for a long time, and I've even talked about it. But I've known about it for so long that I was thinking, oh my goodness, no, can I wait that long, that much longer for the rapture? But it's coming closer and closer, people. It's coming closer and closer. If this Apophis is really wormwood, which is very, very likely, then I would think that the rapture is not going to happen until next year. Not next year, but the year after. Never know. I don't know. I don't know because I don't really know the time. Okay? The years. We don't know the years, so we don't know it really. When exactly the rapture happens. We will know when the wrath of God happens, right? But we don't even know how long the wrath of God is in reality. It could be 4 years, it could be 5 years. I don't know. But within whatever time frame it is, these things are going to happen that Revelation is describing. So yeah, Jesus says nobody knows the time or the hour or something like that, or the season, or no, the hour, the day or the hour. And yes, we don't. We can speculate, and we can also see the signs. There is no doubt that we do see the signs. And again, I believe this Apophis could very likely at this point, sorry, I'm playing here, very likely be this Wormwood. There's no doubt. I guess the closer we're coming to 2029, the more we will know. The thing is with this whole thing is that the elite know. We see that in Revelation 6:12 through, I think it's 16 or 17. It's when the elite go or build themselves bunkers. Let's go there. That's in Revelation 6. And of course it goes along with what Matthew 24 says, Luke 21, and Mark 13. And I have just recently done a video about those events. And I mentioned it shortly. I was focusing more on the destruction of the temple and the abomination of desolation, and not so much on second coming. And I want to look today to this, the seals. So many people think the seals, they will happen at the end. No, only the seventh seal will happen at the end, and that is the wrath of God. The other seals will happen prior. The sixth seal, of course, prepares you for the coming wrath. It gives you an introduction to the wrath of God. But it's only an introduction. It's only saying, wrath of God is coming. It says, there was a great earthquake, the sun turned black like sackcloth, made of goat's hair. The whole moon turned blood red. See, this is now the wrath of God in a nutshell. And stars in the sky fell down to earth, like a fig drops from, as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. The heavens receded like a scroll. Can you imagine? Being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. That is the wrath of God in a nutshell. And of course, then he goes back and says, then the kings of the earth, that means they see this wrath coming. Because the kings of the earth are not preparing for this wrath when the wrath is over. But they're preparing before it happens. And that's what they're doing right now. Then the kings of the earth, the princes, the generals, the rich, the mighty, and everyone else, both slaves free, hid in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains. So when that happens, they hide themselves. Why? Because the wrath is here. But they have prepared these places way ahead of time, because they know right now that it's coming. Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can withstand it? So here, right here, they're announcing that the wrath has come. And then in chapter 8, the wrath is described. We see here that these elite all the stuff that they're preparing right now, people, whatever they're preparing, it's all planned. Everything is planned, people. They know the wrath of God is coming. They don't care about a reset. They don't care about how many people will die. This, who is it, Jamie, I think, even believes that, and somebody else, that all these people are now kind of situated to certain areas. For whatever reason, I don't know, because they know so many people will die. And they have to have some slaves left after the catastrophic event, because they think they're going to rebuild. But see, all these things, they are preparing right now. They're preparing for these catastrophic events. But they don't want to tell anybody. Only the elite know. Only the elite. And again, they have now again put people, specific people, that they can trust in specific strategic positions. This whole cabinet of Trump, the people were chosen not by Trump, but by higher up people. I don't know. I said in one of my videos, it's the fallen angels. And I think so. They were chosen for a certain purpose. Because this whole thing, when it starts to tumble, it'll be great chaos. And somebody's going to have to lead the masses. And they have already tested what people will go along with sanctions or whatever they're doing, and also what kind of people they need in place for people to follow. Somebody even said, oh, well, this whole, and that's absolutely what I believe too. This whole thing with Biden and, this, is it failure of the Democratic Party, failure of this government that we've had for the past 4 years, was purposely allowed in order that people will really, really, really vote for Trump and are convinced that Trump is the savior. They had to get people convinced that Trump is the savior. Because when these things happen, people have to follow him. They have to trust him, and they have to be willing to go along with what he says. And so they had to make things really, really bad in order for people to wake up and then follow the person actually that the elite put there. Now I say elite. It's not, well, it is the elite. It's the pyramid of power. And I have talked about the pyramid of power. Just go back to my video with the dollar bill. I talked very in length about the pyramid of power, and I added purposely the fallen angels in that pyramid of power. The fallen angels are in our government, people. There's no doubt in my mind. And they're the ones that are actually making the plans. Fallen angels know exactly what's coming. Matter of fact, the fallen angels may know very well, okay, when and what's going to happen when this Apophis is coming close. They know it's going to be devastating. They know it's going to be chaos. And they think they can save somebody, humankind, through this and start all over again. But we also know that this time Jesus himself, God himself, will intervene and come down. See, when the flood happened, right? And before the flood, the watchers were creating their hybrids, their Nephilims. They didn't think it would be coming, I guess. I don't know. But they knew afterwards they can continue with their nonsense. Because it would take another, I don't know how many years before Jesus would actually come on the scene. So they could really confuse and mislead humankind for the past 6,000 years. But next time it's going to be different. When this catastrophic event is happening, Jesus himself, God himself, will take things in his own hands. And he will establish this kingdom, and he will chain Satan and his followers. But then, or Satan, we say so lightly Satan is one man, but I think Satan is actually named for the whole horde of fallen angels. Lucifer is the name of the leading angel. That's Lucifer. But I think Satan is more a name for all of them. Because then when it says Satan will be bound, that means all angels will be bound with him. So during the millennium, during the reign of Jesus, which will be a golden age, Satan will be bound. And that includes all the fallen angels. Yeah, people, we need to read the Bible. I don't know 100% if there's any indication how long this wrath of God will last. Again, remember, it's not tribulation. It's not a 7-year tribulation. It's not a time when the Antichrist puts himself into the temple of God. It's not a time when the Antichrist is making a peace treaty. That is all staged. If it happens, people, it is staged. It has nothing really to do with the Bible. It is Satan trying to mimic, actually the lies he has created. It's not in the Bible. But remember, he created this dispensationalism, this lie about dispensationalism, and he is trying to recreate this lie. So he may rebuild a temple, but it's not God's temple. So we shouldn't be happy and whatever. No, it's abomination. He may put some leader in there, which is not Antichrist, which is really, I don't know, he could put the Pope in there, because Pope is Antichrist. He's the man of sin. False prophet. We know who the false prophet is. He could put the false prophet in there, which is Trump, or will be Trump. All possible. But that's because he's mimicking these false stories that he has a long time ago created. It's a great deception. And it's a great deception for those people that continue to believe this dispensational nonsense. We need to stop. We need to go to the Bible. We need to read the Bible and see what it really says. People were coming close. Okay. The longer we wait, like I said before, the closer we get to the rapture. Jesus coming to pick up his bride. And then the wrath of God. The wrath of God which is poured out on the ungodly. This whole system, this whole world system has to come down. People, everything. Our whole political system is nothing but a lie. It's nothing but a lie. It's not what it seems to be. All these people are being lied to. Coming to an end. People, let the Holy Spirit guide you always.